Hello, and welcome to another segment of Smoke Signals. I'm your host for today's show, Lieutenant Chris Taylor from LaGrange Fire Department. We have a great show lined up for you today. We have a member of the LaGrange Fire Department that will be our special guest, so stay tuned because you're about to watch Smoke Signals. Hello, and welcome back. Today we have with us Deputy Chief Philip Rice from the LaGrange Fire Department. Good morning, Chief, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you, Chris.
It's a pleasure to have you here today, and I know you've been on the show many times, and I'm looking forward to having you on the show in the near future. But today we got some very important information we want to discuss with our viewing audience. But before we get into that, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background and what your roles and responsibilities are with the LaGrange Fire Department.
Well, again, my name is Philip Rice. I've been with the fire department for over 25 years. Currently, I'm an administrative deputy chief. We handle the administrative functions that cover the day-to-day operations of the fire department.
Okay, all right. And I'm quite sure that brings about a lot of responsibilities and things of that nature, especially being there on a day-to-day basis because everything pretty much filters through your office. And that can, be a headache sometimes, especially with phones ringing everywhere.
It's busy, but it's all about delivering the best customer service that we can to our customers.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we're going to be talking about the several things, but the first thing we want to discuss is the annual report for 2014. So if you could just tell us a little bit about the annual report and the different categories that help make up the annual report.
Well, the annual report is something that we put together in January of each year for the preceding year. And the fire department currently has 4 divisions: the administrative division, operations division, maintenance, and training. We currently put together figures from calls, inspections, training categories, and compile all that data along with accomplishments that our employees have made throughout the year to develop the report.
Okay. And some of those accomplishments that you mentioned have been some very substantial accomplishments. And if you could just kind of talk about a few of them that we had an opportunity to really appreciate.
Just a quick review of several of the accomplishments of some of our employees. Firefighter Lance Horn was recognized at the Countywide Public Safety Awards Breakfast in September of 2014 as the Public Safety Employee of the Year. And we also had a company, engine company, that was named the Public Safety Unit of the Year. In November of last year, we took delivery of Truck 32. Okay. Which is the department's newest aerial apparatus.
Right.
It is a 78-foot stick and has a 1,500 GPM pump and a 500-gallon tank, and it was manufactured by E1.
Okay.
We had 2 employees that furthered their education, one receiving a bachelor's degree and another completing a master's degree.
Okay.
And also in training, we had several employees go through the Georgia Smoke Divers programs. And in prevention department, or education, the department held its first public safety day in over a decade at the LaGrange Mall and made contact with a lot of citizens through fire truck rides, handouts, interacting with children and using some of our equipment and tools.
And speaking of which, that particular day it was kind of cold, but we still had a nice crowd that came out and to be a part of that activity. And like you said, it's been many years since we've had an activity like that, and I think that'll be something that we're looking forward to doing in the future, to continue to keep interacting with the community and just letting them know what the LaGrange Fire Department does, and just show our appreciation to the services that they support us in.
Yep, and it's all about building a rapport with our citizens and customers, and teaching them about fire safety and making them safer.
All right, and you mentioned about a new addition to the apparatus family, Truck 32, and we've had an opportunity to really display it because it's unique and it's one of a kind. We've never had the type of truck that we've purchased with Truck 32. So that is something that we had an opportunity to learn, get the training necessary that we needed on it, and we're looking forward to all the wonderful services that truck will be able to render to the citizens in LaGrange and surrounding areas.
It's a great apparatus, and a lot of things have changed as far as computers and technology since we bought our last one.
It sure has. And I mean, you think about all the different technologies now that comes with the purchase of an apparatus. Sometimes you got to carry a book along with you just to keep up with everything.
True.
All right. As far as call volume, over a span of several years, how has our call volume changed, let's say from 2006 up until 2014?
In 2006, we responded to about approximately 2,700 emergency calls for service with 3 stations. And then over the last 3 years, we've responded to just under 4,700 calls. A significant increase in call volume over the years. Our personnel have remained relatively unchanged. We currently have 55 line or 52 line personnel that answer calls on 3 rotating shifts. We did change locations with our Station 1 and built a new station on the bypass, and then Station 4. But we split our personnel up and moved them out to be better strategically located to answer calls.
Right. And with that, you talked about moving the stations out. It gives us an opportunity to be able to respond, more strategically inside of the city instead of being within the city responding out. And of course, that one of the biggest challenges was the railroad track when we was down on Main Street, and so now we can kind of bypass that, because if a train's coming through, of course, we gotta take another route to try to get to the incident.
Yeah, and traffic's a concern too. Main Street, coming from the old station up toward the square, was tight. But with relocating the stations out, it gives a little bit better access to some of the other areas of the city.
Right. Now, some other accomplishments in 2014, we had an opportunity to partner with some other agencies like the American Red Cross. American Red Cross have been a very supportive partner of ours, and one of the big programs that we have with them is the After the Fire program. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the After the Fire program is a partnership between LaGrange Fire Department and the American Red Cross, where residents that have a fire in their home and the structure is deemed unlivable at the time, the American Red Cross is contacted, and they respond to the scene, and they assess the damage, and they talk with the occupants of the home, and then they make arrangements for the occupants to have somewhere to stay till they can secure another home.
Okay, yeah, and that's a great service to have, and of course, American Red Cross have so many other components to their organization, and it's just one component that we've been able to partner with them on, and they do a great job of what they do in the community. Not only just fires, but when it comes to weather-related disasters and things of that nature. And so we just want to, thank them for all they do and being one of our supporting partners over the years.
We're very fortunate to have them as part of our LaGrange.
Let's see, the other thing that I want to talk about as far as the annual report, prevention, inspections and things of that nature. As far as inspections and the education side of, what are some things in 2014 that was kind of highlighted?
The Prevention Division during 2014 conducted 2,132 initial fire inspections and re-inspections within the city limits of LaGrange.
Mm-hmm.
Of those inspections, it resulted in the correction of 2,420 code issues.
Wow.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I recently saw where another city up north, I believe, had abolished their inspection department several years ago, and now they're considering reinstating it because they've had 3 pretty bad fires in their downtown district.
Right, right.
So they're a very valuable part of keeping our citizens safe.
Okay. And any other highlights as far as the prevention division goes?
Well, our operations crew, they go out weekly and conduct pre-fire plans, and in 2014, along with the over 2,000 inspections that the inspectors conducted, our engine company crews conducted over 1,500 pre-fire plans.
Wow. And since you mentioned that, that's a very important service, not only for the citizens, but for us, because it gives us an opportunity to go out and see the facilities that we're subject to respond to, and get familiar with the owners and the occupants of those locations. And you know, it's valuable for us because it's training. Now, we don't get a chance to go into some of these facilities on a regular basis, but you know, at least once a year, if they don't have any calls at their location, we get a chance to go out and you know, just kind of get what we call familiarization.
Yep.
That familiarization helps a lot, especially when you get a call out of an incident after night, you know, after dark, and you know, that can be challenging at times. But being able to actually go to that facility and get kind of a general idea of how that facility is set up, and you know, what are some of the hazards that we may run into, I think that's a valuable tool to have.
It's very valuable. You know, you get on the scene of a call and you've got people that are familiar with the locations of you know, chemical storage or utility shutoff or any special confined spaces or just hazards in general that could you know, jeopardize the safety of the employees of the facility or our firefighters.
Right.
That's an invaluable tool.
Right, exactly. Well, we talked about several great things concerning the annual report and the makeup of the annual report. But at this moment, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have more here on Smoke Signals. So stay tuned.
Just what you're looking for. You'll find it in one of the 28 shops in downtown LaGrange. Remember old school customer service? It's still here. Not to mention that perfect gift. That's the beauty of downtown LaGrange. So come on down.
Welcome back. We've been talking to Deputy Chief Philip Rice from the LaGrange Fire Department on topics concerning the annual report of 2014. And Chief Rice, we have some additional information that we want to share with our viewing audience, and we want to talk about a couple things in the public education division.
Okay, during 2014, our personnel conducted 3 boot drives for the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation, the Red Cross, and the Muscular Dystrophy Association. We also had personnel that taught 10 CPR classes and 4 advanced life support courses to the public. We also continued our partnership with the Troup County Senior Center, providing blood pressure screenings to the members of the Senior Center.
Right.
During 2014, we did 1,983 blood pressure checks.
Wow.
We also conducted 16 fire extinguisher training classes for over 300 employees of the local industry. And through other educational events, we made contact with over 6,500 local citizens.
Okay, so those are some good numbers, especially when it comes to the interaction and the contacts that we have, because that's what's important, is being able to make contact with our citizens at different venues and provide them with educational opportunities and training through the fire department. And then not to mention the community events, because we get called to a number of community events where we have a lot of other agencies that come out and they provide their resources and educational materials to the community, so that not only they're just getting information as far as the fire service is concerned, but they're getting a conglomeration of information from services that are provided throughout the city. Because a lot of times, people just don't know all the different services that are provided, and going to a community event, they can get a lot of that information.
That's true, they can.
Okay. Some other information that we wanted to share was call volume.
Okay. In 2014, we responded to 4,665 calls for service. Most of these were single company responses.
Okay.
We're just one engine company or one station responds.
Okay.
50% of these were to residential structures, and then 24 to commercial, and then the other were made up of miscellaneous calls.
Okay.
76% of our call volume was for medical responses.
Okay.
And that goes back a little bit towards blood pressure screenings and identifying potential problems for members of our community before they actually become a problem.
Right.
As in past years, though, the leading cause of accidental fires is cooking. So everyone needs to be real vigilant when they're cooking, and I know everybody's got busy schedules and running here and there, but need to make sure that they have the proper smoke alarms in their residence, and that they keep an eye on their cooking.
Right, because those things in itself, the more preventive measures that they can put in place, the safer they will be. And we can't say it enough about cooking related incidents, because we run a number of cooking related incidents just here in the city of LaGrange, but nationwide, that has been a problem, and it's been a problem for decades.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is not so much mechanical failure, but it's behavior, unattended cooking.
Unattended cooking.
Things of that nature. People, get distracted, and they start cooking and they start venturing off, going to do something else, and next thing you know, there's a fire on the stove. And in some cases, it can be contained to whatever the container that it's burning in, or it can spread and get into your cabinets, and then of course, it can go from one room to the next, and that's where, things can be, very, very dangerous and volatile in those situations. So.
And along that line there, we installed 149 smoke alarms throughout the community last year.
Okay.
Something else that residents can do, if they're confident with it, is have a smoke alarm, a fire extinguisher close to an exit.
Right.
You know, if they feel confident in the use of a fire extinguisher and they've got one close to an exit in the house, they can, you know, get the extinguisher and attempt to put out the fire themselves, or they can leave the structure. That's why it's good to have that fire extinguisher close to an exit.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because there are some people who have fire extinguishers, but they're placed in the wrong place. In the cabinet next to the stove is not a good place to put your fire extinguisher, because we just said the #1 cause of accidental fires is cooking.
Yep.
So you definitely want to have your fire extinguisher placed a distance away from the kitchen, but close to the exit, because if it gets out of hand, at least you got a way out and everyone else has a way out at the same time.
You never want to be in a position to where you have to go past the fire to get your fire extinguisher, or if you're using your extinguisher, where you have to go past the fire to exit the structure.
Exactly. Okay, and that's a great point to remember. And since we're talking about safety tips, having an escape plan is another essential thing, because
yes, it is.
You can have a working smoke alarm in your home. You can do all the other preventive things that need to stop a fire from occurring in your residence, but if you don't have a way out, then everything else is non-void. You have to make sure that you have 2 ways out of every room, and you need to practice your plan and make sure you include everyone in your home under that plan, so that even guests, if someone have guests in their home, if they have sleepover, you know, grandkids or nieces and nephews, they need to know what the plan is also.
Yep.
So those kind of things all work together. A working smoking alarm, making sure that you correct any hazards that you may have in your home, and having a fire escape plan. Those 3 things itself are very important.
They sure are.
Now, what was the average response time that the City of LaGrange had overall?
Average response time was 5 minutes and 33 seconds.
And that's pretty good, considering the way the stations are located and whatnot, because being able to get to an area in a reasonable amount of time makes the difference between life and death, as well as, you know, how much of the structure can be damaged during a certain length of time, because we all know the fires grow in seconds, not minutes.
Yeah, they start growing exponentially after a certain amount of time.
Right, and once it gets all the ingredients it needs, the fuel, the gas, the oxygen, you know, it's hard to stop a fire until you actually have fire protection equipment that can be there to control the fire and put the fire out.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is something that's very important, but a lot of people are not aware of, and that's burn permits. Everyone who burns in the City of LaGrange, whether it's a little leaf pile in the yard, some sticks, or what have you, they have to call the fire department to get permission to burn, because of the close proximity and, of course, you know, some of the other hazards that can be associated with a burn permit or burning in your yard. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's correct. Anyone that wishes to burn needs to contact the fire department for a burn permit. Only leaves, limbs, and natural vegetation are materials that can be burned. There are no man-made materials that can be burned. You know, this even includes lumber. You know, lumber that's been sawn and planed for building materials is not a burnable material because of the chemicals and the manufacturing process that goes into making those materials last.
Right. Now, even with that, what are some things that people should do when they have gotten a burn permit and want permission to burn? And then what are some things they should not do when it comes to burning?
Well, most of all, they should not use any type of accelerant like gas to get a pile of debris burning.
Right.
You know, that's a big danger. The gasoline fumes are not visible, and once you put out gas, they fumes go out and they spread. And if you're standing within proximity of those fumes, when you strike a match, you may be 5 or 6 feet away, But if those fumes have reached your location, you're going to be in that combustion area, and it'll be possible that you could get burned.
Right.
You know, you want to always keep an eye on your controlled burn, and only hand piled piles are burnable.
Is there a certain height limit?
I'm not really familiar with a certain height, but it only can be hand piled. It cannot be piled with a machine.
Okay.
In order to get just a regular burn permit.
Right, and then of course they need to have some water.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have some water nearby.
Right.
You know, and burning's not allowed before 10, and it's got to be out an hour before dark.
Okay, all right. So that's some great information for our audience to know about burning at home. Because some people, you know, they think, well, I'm just gonna go out here and rake up the yard, especially on a Saturday, and go out and rake up the yard, and I got this pile of leaves and brush that I want to get rid of, and they just light it off.
Yeah, and you need to be respectful of your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, consider the wind direction and any neighbors that have any health conditions, because some people, a little bit of smoke is really bad for them.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you do have a burn permit and the smoke becomes a nuisance, then the fire department will come and put it out.
Oh yeah, definitely will do that. And you know, so take heed to those tips as well as burn permit procedures, because before long you won't be able to get a burn permit, and we'll be talking about that, you know, as that time gets a little bit closer. So, but we talked about a lot of great information today, Chief, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to go over our annual report and talk about some of the components and some of the things that we're looking at towards the future. And before we close out, when we talk about 2015, there's an addition to some new things that we'll be purchasing, and that was 2 apparatuses that we talked about earlier. You want to kind of share on that?
Latter part of the year, we should be taking delivery of 2 Supton pumpers. These pumpers are to replace engines that are starting to age and require a lot of maintenance.
Right.
But we look forward to getting these. I think one around July and another around the middle of toward the end of November.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. It's always good to have new, innovative equipment, and along with the new equipment, there's going to be new technology.
That's true.
All right. Well, we thank you again, Chief, for being on the show, and we'd like to thank you, our viewing audience, for watching another segment of Smoke Signals. So until next time, take care.
Why United Way? Because in some way, everyone in our community is touched by your donation to United Way of West Georgia. Yes, everyone. United Way helps 25 local agencies touch thousands of lives, even yours. To cause so many good things to happen, these organizations must have volunteers. Fortunately, more than 2,300 local volunteers are now giving time to the 25 local organizations that United Way of West Georgia helps support. Yes, more than 2,300 volunteers. But more are needed. Please volunteer your time, as well as your financial support. You'll be astonished at what you'll receive in return.